we're gonna pull up some of the most commonly asked questions when it comes to the 1959 all-wheel drive El Camino. We're gonna pull up some of the really good ones and, well, some of the mean ones. This one got me sad, I'll be honest with you. This is when I stewed over for like 2 hours with this. So it says, no matter how awesome it looks underneath, it will end up being an ugly El Camino. Well, that one hit real hard. This is gonna be my attempt to create a video that costs 0 pennies. So let's dive in. Oh, golly. Welcome to the Off the Rails YouTube channel. But before we dive into the video, I want to explain some of the stuff that I've done the last few weeks to get us caught up on the all-wheel drive El Camino progress. So I wanted to start adding a 3D structure to the tubular chassis. I didn't want it to just all be tubes. It's pretty rad the way it looks, but I really wanted to give some depth to it. So I actually did something that I see a lot. There's this guy that I admire a lot. His name is, oh, I can say this on YouTube. Yeah, I don't think they mind. His name is Morgan Clark Design, and the guy is just incredible. He does a lot of tubing and then he fills it to give this sort of 3D structure. So I started taking a crack at it, and I didn't want this car again to just be tubed. So what I did is I did a 1-inch bent tube, 1 to 5/8 in the back. I gave it this design. This is a support for my main structure here, which the push rod suspension will be based off of. And I really just filled it and blended it. There was a cool trick, which I'll show in a video later on of how I actually did this. But for now, I just wanted to catch you up on some of the aesthetics of the build itself. From there, I made my cross tube and my upper tube for the actual chassis itself. I rode the top of the pillar line here to the best of my abilities. I don't have a roller. I got one coming in pretty soon. So it's all a little bunch of incremental bends. Get a better shot of it later on, but this is pretty much a tube with a larger radius and a smaller radius, and it's flat. So I'm gonna incorporate a lot more of this and this to give the chassis more of a flow to it instead of just being tubes in every which direction. These are a tab and slot bracket that design that are going to be molded into the chromoly tube chassis. Same idea as the front lowers. You guys probably seen a couple videos back, but I actually make these with a larger footprint so I can now stitch weld it and have more load on a bigger platform of the tube. Now a little overkill, probably, but again, we're in new territory, so I want to go a little bit more heftier. If the car is a little heavier, it's totally fine by me as long as it looks good and it works and everything's strong. But this is the theory about this. So this is all tab and slot. These are my brackets. These will all pop together. I'll do a more in-depth video later on. And as it pops together, I'll weld it and TIG weld it. So this is where the magic is. I don't know if you can see this in the video. These are my fascia plates with the actual tabs themselves. I'll weld these all together. And again, we'll be using these Joe Gibbs racing slugs for the rear. This will allow me to adjust my instant center and some anti-dive and pro-dive properties in the rear suspension. So it's gonna be really fun when we get into the rear and actually start adjusting it and we start using the car. So these are gonna get welded up and these are gonna go to the rear, and I wanna show you guys something really, well, something I'm excited to try that's gonna be new for me. I'm actually gonna put a push rod style suspension into the all-wheel drive El Camino, and I'll give you kind of a quick mock-up or a teaser for how this is gonna go in our next episode. What we're gonna be doing in the next episode is actually planning out brackets, the geometry for our Mentor Motorsports coilover. Push rod's gonna be here. We're gonna figure out all the geometry with you guys in real life, and then from there, we're gonna tie this all together so we'll have an actual rocker here to allow us to drive this coilover into a parallel location like this. Something else that I'm really proud of is I'm teaming up with Mentor Motorsports, and they just solved a ton of time for me when it comes to how I'm actually gonna get the CD axles routed through the front with this bracket. When the CD axle comes down, I have to have a way to tie my actual rod in. So this is gonna be a bracket that we're gonna make a tab down here to mount to. And then from there, we will have a place for our structural tube that will then bolt to this rocker. Now again, I'll get more into this later on. We'll really dive into this. This will be a heavy scientific episode, but I'm really fired up to make all this work and figure out the actual geometry for this. This is just a 3D printed one that I kind of messed with to give me some insight how things are gonna be placed, but this is gonna be the one that's gonna rack my brain the most, but yeah, it's gonna be epic. All right, enough sidetracking. I gave you guys the updates. Now let's get rolling with it and get the original idea of the concept of the video. Are you okay?
I am.
What'd you do? What'd you do? Almost exploded us. You all right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna get back to it. All right, the biggest one I get all the time is, this is not all-wheel drive, it's 4x4. Now, technically, you are correct. I'm using a billet SCS gearbox, but later on in life, you gotta let me cook. There's gonna be a separate component that runs through the transfer case to the front diff that will make the car full-time all-wheel drive. So you guys gotta let me do the things. But there is gonna be a piece that's gonna go in there that's gonna mechanically allow the front and rear wheels to engage back and forth. We'll get more into tech tip video later on down the road, but just bear with me, we're getting there. So right now it's a 4x4, but in due time it will be all-wheel drive. Now this one hurts. This is rough. This is the ugliest thing I have ever seen. Well, I appreciate the comment, but I happen to think the El Camino is probably one of the prettiest cars I've ever seen in my life. When you actually see a 1959 El Camino in person, you'll get the idea of what I'm saying. I don't know what they were smoking or what they were doing when they designed the shell, but it's wild. You want to see some style? We're going to take a little trip back in the day. Look at this. This guy just got his new El Camino. He probably makes 30 cents a week, and he can still afford it. And he had money on top of that to buy some god-awful grandfather clock. Look at these two old-timers popping it in for him like nothing. They got their suits on. Boots are polished. She hops in. He's got his own dame. I don't know if that's politically correct to say these days, but back in the day, it was okay. And you know what? I bet she actually really loves the guy. He's hopping in. They probably got two kids, Timmy and Bob, back home, but they can't fit him in the El Camino because it's only got 2 places to sit, which is a terrible design. But other than that, look at that. This thing is incredible. Look at that. That's going to be me, guys, going down the road, 7,000 RPM. Woo! Look, they even put this thing on a turntable. They really upped the ante with this commercial. You'll get the idea of what I'm saying. I don't know what they were smoking or what they were doing when they designed the shell, but it's wild. Like when you look at the back of the fins, the way they flow, and the whole car itself, and it's actually on the ground. I love it. It's near and dear to my heart. But you can't judge what it looks like now with the bare skin all messed up, because we're gonna do all the sheet metal. Everything's gonna be filled. There's gonna be body panels. There's gonna be inserts, billet inserts for the exhaust and the intake. There's gonna be a lot of stuff that goes on the outside, maybe even a scoop for the top, and a body kit to make the wheels work. So don't judge it primarily on what it looks like right now, because there's gonna be a lot of stuff that happens on the outside to make the whole car come together. Dunzo! Here's a good one. This is from T. Roy Gibbons. That's a made-up name. I made that one up. That's a cool name, though. I'm gonna put that on Instagram. T. Roy Gibbons said, I don't know if you could say hell on YouTube. What the heck are you gonna do with this thing? Well, the whole idea is, I don't know if you guys know, but this is actually my personal car, so it's been my personal dream, but I'm trying to make it happen. So I'm funding it, designing it, building it, crying about it all in one shot. But this is my dream, it's my passion. So the whole idea is, once I do it and I finish it, I beat the ever-living crap out of it, and I just enjoy the progression of it. But on that note, I really want to hash out the all-wheel drive system, figure out how my first run. Let's call this a prototype. This is my #1 prototype. A lot of this stuff is new to me, so I want to hash it all out. I want to make it all work. And then once I know I got the stamp of approval on it for my right foot, we're going to go ahead and duplicate it and transition that into a different platform, or a different shell. Do you plan on bringing it to SEMA? Yes, I do plan on bringing it to SEMA, but the whole idea of this car is not just to be a SEMA car that sits and looks cute and brings all the boys to the yard. The whole idea is I build this thing and I thrash the ever-living beep out of it. I really want to design this car, as you'll notice as we go through the progression of it. Everything's kind of overbuilt, but I want to build this, beat on it, and just enjoy it. I want to have something that really works, that does look good. I mean, the outside is going to look nice, but all the magic is going to be in here. This is going to be a car. I had this idea, and I'll bring it quick. I want to drive it across country, and I want to bring it around and beat the crap out of it. As it breaks, I fix it. That will be after SEMA, because it needs to look good for a little piece of time. But after that, the wheels are going to fall off, and we're going to actually beat on this thing and enjoy it. So yeah, SEMA, and then we're going to enjoy life with it. We're going to get weird. Maybe even go to the beach. I don't know. I like this question. What made you want to make the all-wheel drive system? Well, it actually goes back to when I was a kid. So I have the Chevelle, which you guys have seen on the channel. But my buddy had a STI, and I think he made like 300 horsepower, and he would kick my ass all over the place. He would just... And this car was kind of like a race car back then, and it still would lose. So, I don't know, it was just the feeling of it, the all-wheel drive, how the car could pretty much do anything. I feel like there's not a lot of V8-powered all-wheel drive cars out there, and me at heart, I love V8s, the sound, everything about them. So I had this idea like 4.5 years ago, what if I created my own V8 supercar, but I did it kind of like in my own way, my own artistic, weird way. And then bang, once that idea kicked in, it was But it all stems from Evos and STIs. They're one of my favorite style cars. So yeah, we're doing an all-wheel drive. It's like an STI, but it's on steroids, as you would say. It's a V8, pro-charged, all-wheel drive, and this old classic shell that I love. It's a hammer. It's a hammer or the multi-tool that I'm trying to design for myself so I can do everything with it. Time attack, I can drag race, and yeah, drive it everywhere, and it's still full-time all-wheel drive. So it's really like my own purposeful built hammer time, I don't know the verbiage, weird hammer, crazy tool. Whoop. This is actually a really good one. I get this one a lot. I get some hate on this one, but mostly it's been pretty positive. Why the heck would you install a Ford Godzilla? Well, to be honest with you, I have never played around with this engine, it's a 400, I think most of you guys probably know, it's a 440 cubic inch Ford-based push rod motor. They got rid of the overhead cams. And it's big. It's like a big block in small block form. There's a guy that I follow, long story short, who made something like 18 or 1900 horsepower with this. His name's Brian Wolf. When I saw the videos and the way the motor was, it just, everything about it, it got me excited. Plus, it's new. I didn't want to just put a LS in this thing, or I didn't want to put a Coyote. Coyote probably would have been where the magic sauce is at, but I wanted to try something new and I wanted to push myself, and I actually really wanted to dive into the platform because I have an idea for the Ford Godzilla in the future. Now, this is something I'll be very honest about. I've seen some problems with the engine through the old interwebs, and it is making me nervous. Now, some people have made 1900 horsepower. Some people have had other problems with head gasket sealing. So me diving into this whole engine, being new with it, I am worried about the amount of knowledge I have to put together to make it work for this combo. But the whole idea is this. You guys have seen it. Ford Godzilla, Pro Charge, crank driven. The reason I went into that whole system is I wanted instantaneous boost with a big cubic inch motor for the all-wheel drive system. Whole idea is I'm going to do a lot of street driving with this. The car can come up on boost instantly, and I have an automatic with a torque converter. I can flash this thing instantly, and with the all-wheel drive, it's going to be ultra violent. So I kind of did a couple things different. I didn't do turbos because I wanted instant flash, which you still can do, but I went with a crank-driven Pro Charger for the simplicity of it, for the ability for me to beat on it, to be able to service it quickly and not have things crack and whatnot with, say, headers. Because I am going to put a lot of street miles on this car. The whole goal with this car is I'm going to drive it across country once I'm done with it when I finish SEMA. Ooh, here's a good one. Is there going to be a season 2 of Resurrected Rides? Honestly, I don't know. I'm left out of the loop with that. Netflix is so smart. They read all the analytics every time you go and watch, every time you tune back. So far from what I've seen, is doing really good. But really, it's upon them. I guess they'll call us one day and they'll say, hey, we love you, Don. We love your handsome mug and we love your tube notching ability, so come on back. But until then, we're wide open on the El Camino, so let's put it out in the ether and let's hope it happens. And yeah, hopefully we can get weird again, but if not, we're all El Caminos. And Netflix, if you see this, let's do it again. This is actually a really good one. It says, this one got me sad, I'll be honest with you. This one, I stewed over for like 2 hours with this one. So it says, no matter how awesome it looks underneath, it will end up being an ugly El Camino. Oh, that one hit real hard. There are very few people that even like that. This is the only comment I think I've gotten that really made me stew for a hot minute. But you know what I'm going to say to that one? I love it. I think it's one of the prettiest cars that's out there. That's my opinion. And if you don't like it, that's cool. And for you guys watching this out there, if you're building something that you think is weird and people are commenting on it, keep going. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you love what you're doing. And for me with this thing, well, I'm head over heels for it, so I'm in it now, baby. So we're going to keep on rocking and rolling. So yeah, to you, if I ever see you, I'll give you a hug. And I'm going to keep rocking with my El Camino. So this is a good one. I get this question probably every day or every other day through my messages. Who makes the control arms? So I based the whole platform of this car based around a C5, C6 control arm. There's a company called Part Shop Max. They're incredible. They hooked me up with the upper and lower control arms. The whole idea is I'm using an upper and lower control arm from the Corvette. Their stuff's just girthier. That's a bad word. I can't use girthier. Their stuff is just a lot beefier and stronger so it can handle the power that I'm going to put to it. But the whole idea is I use the Corvette style stuff because I'm actually using a Corvette knuckle, which I'm now using. This is actually secret. I didn't tell you guys this or show you this. I'm actually using a Corvette rear bearing, which is splined, and I'm putting it to the front. That's how I'm getting engagement to the CV axles to the front hubs. So by using all this Corvette geometry style stuff, I really easily made a connection point for the all-wheel drive system in the front. And what you'll see here is we'll do a little recap. This is just a billet knuckle with their upper and lowers and a rear bearing in the front, tied it together. Boom, we have our connection point for the front of the all-wheel drive. So keep that in mind if you want to build an all-wheel drive car and want to not machine stuff. What gearbox are you using? So I'm using a 4L80E automatic GM transmission to a billet SCS gearbox. And as I said before, theoretically right now it is four-wheel drive if I were just to use it the way it is. But the whole idea and how I came up with the all-wheel drive system is, I don't know if this is a good way to word it, but I feel like there's a really extravagant way to make the all-wheel drive system work, and it's really like a low buck way, and I'm somewhere like probably in the past the 50% range where it is some extreme stuff that I'm using. It is a little pricey, but it's not like going way overboard with some other all-wheel drive cars have done, because I am a working man, so I have to make this all work. So the whole idea is, and I'll break it down, SCS gearbox goes to carbon shafts. I'm using my Ford 9-inch Curry center sections. carbon shafts, and I'm gonna have a very special piece that I told you guys before that's gonna differentiate and actually make it all-wheel drive. But the whole idea is I'm designing this car to be full-time all-wheel drive. It's all mechanical. It's gonna ebb and flow in and out of corners, but I'm building this car like a multi-tool. You'll see a lot of drag race inspired, a lot of time attack inspired stuff with trophy truck, to be honest with you. A lot of it is kind of coming from trophy truck parts, all mixed together to build a really wild multi-tool. What I wanna do is I wanna be able to turn this thing on, drag race it with a couple different geometry setting changes, and then be able to go time attack it. That's why you're seeing this hodgepodge of mixture of how I'm going with a NASCAR style anti-roll bar, how I'm doing the tires, the ride height, kind of the chassis setup itself. This thing is gonna be made to do everything. Now, it's not gonna be the fastest drag car in the world. It's not gonna be the fastest time attack car, but I tell you what, it's gonna be one heck of a ripper that runs on the 7-second range that will be able to handle with me just adjusting things here and there. This is a deep one, even though it's only 3 words. What's next, dude? What is next, dude, is the big question. I have a dream. So right now I work full-time as an engineer, and I work on boats, and I use that to fund the money to do all this, but my heart is here. And if you're my employer, I am sorry that you had to hear that on this, but my heart's here and I want to create. All I want to do in my life is I want to be able to create and build and design and push myself. So the whole goal is this thing takes off and I can duplicate this setup and build another one better and better and better and get myself to a point where I can create out of Retro Fabworks full-time all-wheel drive system for old classic cars. So I can be the guy that you call up and say, hey, I got a 63 Corvette. I want you to make it all-wheel drive, and I will scale the chassis to that. Now, it doesn't have to just be all-wheel drive, but I want to build really artistic race cars. So yeah, that's my goal, and we're getting there. But for now, let's finish this, prove it, beat the crap out of it together, make some memories, and then yeah, like at some point we'll just doing it all the time. We'll hire everybody who watches this. I'll hire you. We'll have 60,000 people. Then I did a big shop, and we'll just build all-wheel drive cars all day, every day, over and over again, until the wheels fall off. And that was a little extreme, but I think you know what I'm talking about. On a serious note, I want to thank you guys. This whole thing is all new to me, vlogging and building at the same time. Usually I just build, and I get to be quiet and listen to my music and do this stuff. So me showing you all this in real time is it's a bit of a headache when it comes to editing, because I have to learn how to do this, but I'm very proud of where this channel's going. And I couldn't do it with any of you guys. So without your love and support, I would be, well, I'd just be building this alone. So it's a lot more fun when this is shared with you all. And I thank you for the love. I thank you for the comments. I thank you for the insight. I get some of my best insight through the comments with you all to kind of keep me on track with making this thing surely rip. When it comes to design, when it comes to engineering, some of the stuff that you guys have said has changed a lot of the aspects of this. So I'm greatly appreciative of that. And then, yeah, let's just keep going for the ride. Let's build this thing. Let's get it done. Let's thrash it. Let's get into the all-wheel drive system. We're gonna get into the push-rod suspension next. We're gonna finish off the tube chassis. Just bear with me, because I'm a one-man band, and it takes me time. I gotta make the money, then I gotta take the money, and I gotta invest it into the car, and then I gotta build the car, then I gotta edit it. So it takes me a little bit longer, but we're getting there, and I think you guys are seeing, yeah, well, we're doing it. We're doing it with you all, so I love you.